What's up, everybody? This is Dell. Welcome to Dell on Movies and episode number 60 of Movie Swap. Tonight's guest is a guy who has a stream that lets you know exactly what's coming out, when it's coming out, what company is putting it out, and also some amazing guests to go with that. And tonight he gets to be the guest. I'm talking about Ryan of The Disconnected. What's going on, Ryan?
How we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. And yeah, let's just to start right there. I mean, that show always your show always amazes me. How much research how do you put into that show? Because like I said, I mean, every release that's out there that you could
Yeah.
think of gets mentioned, and you have a good knowledge of every company that you're talking about. So how much does that take?
I mean, it's really kind of just years of doing this, and not to downplay it, but having ADHD, so I memorize all of it basically.
Wow.
It's I don't know, it's something where it's a passion of mine, and everything about it I have poured into my brain, and then the big thing is I'm posting announcements like all day. Basically, it's every single English language friendly announcement is what gets posted on my accounts, and then that's what we cover on Thursday nights. So I'm going over stuff worldwide. I mean, I've got stuff from Germany, from the UK, from Australia, and all of that could happen in one day. And then, of course, you get the giant drops like Vinegar Syndrome that we'll have to end up talking about for like an hour because they're putting out so many things.
Oh, I know because whenever I'm on your stream, whenever I watch your show, it's like, how where did you find this? I've never even heard of this company, and it's one of those things. I mean, you people out there who don't know you, I'm not exaggerating. This isn't hyperbole. It's if there's a boutique label who set up shop in Antarctica and they put out a release, Ryan's going to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try at least.
Yeah, you're gonna try. Now, I gotta give you an apology because it's been a while now, but I got to be a guest on your show, and then I was determined to have you on my show, and time went by, and I thought I had you on my show.
I've been
So I
there.
was look yeah, so a couple weeks ago when I contacted you, it's because I went back, I was going back through the guests, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't have Ryan on here. I need to get Ryan. So yeah, I apologize to
I've
you
been
for that,
wanting to
sir.
forever, so the honor is all mine this time.
All right. Um, so my next question for you is what got you into that line of tracking down all those releases?
I mean, really, it was being stuck indoors during COVID. One of the things that I had found myself doing for a couple years before then is just being like voracious consumer of all of these boutique labels and watching as many as I could, trying to like literally pour through all of the special features. And based on that, you end up doing some research on finding some of this stuff. And so I inevitably found the way to YouTube and found a couple of the bigger physical media YouTubers that sit here and give information or reviews or whatever. And I pretty much found, and this is going to sound condescending, I don't mean it that way, but I found that all of them just gave out bad information. They were all pretty much wrong about a couple of facts in every single video. And it pissed me off because I was like, I think I could do this. I could probably do it where people could know the right information. And even now, like I get stuff wrong, sure, but there's so many things here that are blatantly false that people were sharing back then that I'm like, let's just try it. And so one of the things that I did before I started doing like the live streams was I used to do these label guide videos. So I would get some random company that most people that are into like Arrow or Scream Factory had probably never heard of. And so one of my big ones that popped off was Mono Macabro. A lot of people had just plain never heard of them, and so I went through and I shared all of the titles from Mono Macabro. I had the kind of releases they put out, what they physically look like, what you can expect on them, when is the best time to buy them, where should you buy them, things that are higher quality about them, things that you maybe want to look out for. And then the other thing that I threw in that made this really important for a lot of people is I brought on somebody from Mondo Macabro to make sure all of the information I was sharing was right, but then also to just give some history behind it and give it that context. And it just took off. It became one of my more important videos, and people liked it. So I tried to do as many as I could for some of the smaller boutiques, and then eventually somebody said, "Well, honestly, you should just be covering these live every single week." And I said, "All right, I'll consider doing that as soon as I get to." I don't even remember what it was, but it was like a certain follower count, and it happened like 3 weeks later. I was like, "Well, crap, I guess I kind of have to do this now." And so now I've been doing. In August, it will be 4 years of doing live streams every single Thursday night at the same time. I've missed one Thursday in that entire time, and that's because my buddy, who's gotten kind of famous in the last year, but John DeMarsco, who's the broadcast director for the Mets. I was in California on a Thursday night, and he invited me to Dodger Stadium to go into the Mets broadcast truck, and I'm sorry, I wasn't going to pass that up. So I missed
I
one Thursday in
yeah.
4 years.
I look. I grew up. I grew up a Yankees fan actually, but I went to plenty of Mets games in
Yeah,
New York too, and no way I would have passed that up. I mean,
yeah.
you just can't. How
And
often do you get that chance?
I had never even been to Dodger Stadium, so it was kind of like a win-win. So I absolutely had to go.
Yeah, cool. And you mentioned, other than that 1 week, you've been doing this every week for 4 years. I'm
Yep.
amazed because I know that you have a family.
Yes.
You have a wife. You have wife and kids.
Yep.
And I have a wife and kids too, and I can't keep a schedule for Movie Swap, just Movie Swap. So I'm amazed that you can do that every Thursday. So hats off to you for that one.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been a mess. I mean, planning guests for every single week gets to be rough, but at the same time, I say that, and now like I'm fully scheduled out till the end of September already, just with people that I want to get on the show. And theoretically, I'm hoping to get you back about the same time that you were on last year, probably around October, November. So be on the
Okay.
lookout for that request.
I will be on the lookout. Just let me know. We'll make it happen. Now, I will say this. One thing that gets a little bit lost for me in what you do is what kind of movie watcher are you? So what are some of, not necessarily your favorite movies or anything, but what are your, well, I mean, you can if you want to, but what are you kind of go-to types of movie, or what are your favorite types of movies?
I'm going to be a terrible answer for this because I like to challenge myself. So I don't really have an easy answer for this because I want to watch things that I never would have expected that I would have watched. So pretty much every time, if I'm watching something for fun, I'm not rewatching a favorite. I rarely do that unless I'm showing it to my kids, which now that they're a little bit older, that's happening more and more. But I'm really doing things like old Italian cinema that I had heard of for years that I've just missed out on, that I've wanted to watch. Some classics that I still have lots of missing blind spots. Trying to find something like world animation that has just eluded me because I love animation. Um, like a lot of us, horror is big for me, so I'll jump into that arena a lot. But really, it's just, man, I kind of want to, I kind of want to see as much as I possibly can, no matter what it is. And the big thing for me is I've never been able to travel the world, and I kind of just want to see cultures. And so I try to watch as many international films as I can, and it's the easiest way to travel for. I won't say cheap because some of these boutiques cost they cost a lot of money, but I watch as much as I possibly can.
Well, they cost a lot less than a plane ticket.
That's true. That's true. Usually,
Yeah,
at least, unless you're importing from
usually.
imprint, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. I'll say for me, I don't know about for anybody watching, but for me, that was a perfect answer, because I encourage people all the time, get out of your comfort zone. Watch something you wouldn't normally watch, and
Yep.
because you always hear people, I love horror, especially horror fans. It's like, oh, I love horror, and that's all
Right.
I watch, and or you got people, well, I don't watch horror, and I run into it a little bit less on social media, but in real life, in my family and my friends, it's like,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to watch this kind of movie. That looks boring. I don't want to watch that. Or especially the big one, of course, is I don't want to watch a black and white movie
Or
or
subtitles.
subtitles. Right, right. So, and I encourage them, like, you don't know if you're gonna like it until you actually watch it. And I get pushback on that one. Hey, this movie's
Yeah.
boring. It's black and white. Why is it so old? Okay, whatever. Let's move on from there. I tell them, hey, well, you pick the movie. I don't care anymore.
Yep.
um, but yeah, so that was a great answer for me. So, I mean, because I'm pretty much the same way. I wind up watching more favorites for YouTube, either through Movie Swap or if I'm going to be on somebody else's
Right.
channel. And then there's some things that I want to show my youngest daughter. She's the other movie buff in the family, so I'll show her things. I'm still fighting with her over the black and white thing, by the way. But yeah, so I'll show her a lot of things. But other than that, if it's just me, it's like, yeah, I want to watch something that I haven't seen before. I don't know if I'll watch it. So I'm kind of combing through this stuff back here, because there's plenty of movies back here that I've never seen.
Right.
So, and I'm sure you got plenty that you've never seen because that's
I've
what
got
works out.
thousands, literally, and the hard part, this sounds like, I don't know, maybe an entitled answer to this, but lately, because of what I've done through my show and through some of my relationships, I work with a lot of these companies now. I'm producing special features, I'm producing releases for them, and so a lot of the things that I watch, I hate to say it, but I'm watching, like, 5 times because 'cause I'm working on it, and
Right.
I don't get a lot of time to just go randomly grab something off the shelf so much when I'm super busy. Like right now has been one of the busiest couple months of my life, and it's crazy. But some of these movies I've seen, I don't know, literally like 5 to 8 times. And I'm like, I still love this movie, so it's exciting, but it's frustrating because I can't go grab 12 more off the shelf that I could have watched this month.
Right. Right. Of your special features that you've worked on, you have a favorite?
Oh man, there's gonna be two different answers to this. So, one is I work with a company called Deaf Crocodile a lot, and they do a lot of world cinema. They've done stuff from Russia. They've done like old Hungarian films that are really great. But we did this movie called Gwen and the Book of Sand, and it is this sweeping, epic animation movie that is, I don't know, for a lot of people that aren't used to like slow cinema, it's going to be very literally like boring to many people, but we really sought out to make our special features educational but also really entertaining in a way that will want you to watch the things that we're talking about. And this is probably the only special feature that we've done so far that people have watched and literally said, wow, like I watched the movie and didn't quite get it, but I watched your special feature and now I want to watch the movie multiple times again. Or saying that the moment that they watched what we talked about, it clicked and they totally understood it, which I loved. And then the selfish side of me, this is where the silliness comes in and the horror side. I pretty much produced the entire release of the Nail Gun Massacre for TerrorVision, which is
Oh,
now a 40-year-old I slasher, I guess you can call it. That is, for most people they would probably call it a bad movie, but it is just a lot of fun, and getting to talk to all these people that were like local theater students that just kind of came together to make a movie that's lived on worldwide. Like they have massive fans in Germany and the UK and Japan, and to hear them look back on this 40-year-old movie and just go, man, that was a really great time, and share these things like the doctor in Nail Gun Massacre, we just randomly talk on the phone every so often. I still talk to him after
cool.
our conversation. So it was just really great. We got to do an audio commentary for it, and it was, I don't know, it was one of my first audio commentaries, and it was weird because the moment the film starts, we couldn't even introduce ourselves. This is going to turn some people away, but I promise it's a good movie to watch. We started the commentary and we had to say, normally we'd introduce ourselves, but as you can see, we're already in the middle of a brutal gang rape scene. So let's get through that and then we'll introduce ourselves. But yeah, it's a really interesting movie to look back on 40 years later. And I don't know, just honored to be able to put my thumb on it in any way.
That's a tough way to start. I don't
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see who's hanging out with us. Looks like we got
Sweet.
quite a few comments here. Quite a few people are hanging out here. We got Steve, or AKA Just Moody, says doing double duty for a few minutes here. I saw Steve over in the chat for KB. KB loves movies. He's having a conversation over there tonight. Not sure if he's still going or not. But I did see Steve over there, so maybe he's kind of got two tabs open and going there. That would be cool. Shan Gamer says, "Yay movies!" Thank you, Shan. Much appreciated. Shan's first time in my chat, so I'm glad to see you here. Prince is here. What's going on, Prince? AKA the Asian action assassin. Of course, says you the legend, Ryan. Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
COVID and cult film. DK Do Skidoo is in the chat. Cool. And there's Patrick of Half Cheetah Will View saying what's up to us both. Luke is here. What's going on, Luke? He was a recent guest of of Movie Swap, and he was on my game night quotables. And I'm going to apologize to Luke. Luke actually won the game, and I'm not apologizing to him for that. I'm apologizing because the audio was so bad that it's unwatchable.
Oh,
I'm
dang.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to make a medley, I guess, out of it, so we can get a decent watchable video out of it. So it's gonna take me a while because the game went almost 3 hours with all the technical difficulties in the
Whew.
game. So it might be some weeks, but I'm trying to get it out there, Luke, because I think it was a lot of fun. It won't be as fun because we won't see every question live, but I'm gonna do it again. Have some more people on. Uh, Patrick says, "Are you a fan of IC films, Ryan?" And before you answer, I'm going to tell you that Patrick is a super fan of IFC films. But go ahead, go for it.
Then heck no, I'm just kidding. I mean, yeah, of course. The big thing is they're founded on independent cinema, and that is one of my favorite things in the world. I will say that they have a big imprint with Scream Factory over the years. They've released a lot of things on physical media in conjunction with them, and I'll be honest, most of them are pretty bad. That being said, I don't think there's ever been a time that I've watched one and it not at least had fun. But randomly, every 5 or 6 that you watch, there's one that's like, "Wow, this is a genuine, really great movie," and I really hope that they're able to do big things after that. So, yeah, IFC Films, thumbs up forever.
Yep. They've got some really good stuff. Uh, Prince, comment on your shirt, the Letterbox Halloween shirt. Heck yes.
It's a fun one.
Yes, it is. Uh, Dell, thank you for the term movie swap. I've been doing swaps with Mizzy and it's fun. I'm not stopping on swapping movies. That's one way of cleaning my never ending watch list. Yes, that is a way. That is definitely a way. And Mizzy's a great guy. I need to get Mizzy back on. He was one of my first guests on Movie Swap way back when. Jeff, aka John Doe Juggalo, is here. Good evening, Jeff. Adrian says hey there to us both.
What's up, Adrian?
And here's KB. So I'm guessing the show is over. He says, "Hey, you guys."
KB.
God Caveman is here. Hey there, everyone. My favorite hold the pickle guest. Hey, Del Ryan. Have an awesome stream.
What's
I'm
up,
going
guy?
to. We are going to. And KB says, thanks for following us over here. So, yes, everyone who was on KB's stream in his chat, thank you if you have followed him over here. He gave me lots of great promotion during time when I was watching. So, always appreciate it, KB. And thank you to everybody else. And yep, good one. And Prince, get Prince on. He says, I'm starting to get out of my fear of horror. Hopefully, October this year will do the trick. I would say, you know what, matter of fact, I'm a year the guest. I mean, what would you say to someone who thinks that they just can't do horror because it's too scary or too much for them?
I would say, and come at this as a psychology major because that's what I got my degree in. Find out, do some digging and find out what part of it is actually scary for you. And what's interesting is with horror, there's 800 other subgenres of horror that won't have that one thing that you're talking about. So
Yeah.
if it's literally just tension and like your chest can't handle the rising anxiety of a full movie, go watch like a splatter comedy movie. It's technically a horror movie because it's super bloody, but you're just gonna be laughing the whole time. If it's the brutal gore, don't watch that. Watch something that has pretty much nothing in it. There's still lots of horror movies that have nothing in it. Like Paranormal Activity is one of the classic ones. There's not a single thing of gore in that entire movie, and it still scared the audiences to death, and they love that feeling. So identify what feeling it is that you really want to get past and just ignore those. And then eventually maybe you can face that fear and expand your palate even further.
Oh, absolutely. Just this year, I think we have two movies that fit the bill there. We Sinners, yes. classically a horror movie, but it's definitely not trying to
Right.
scare you. For instance, it's there's a lot going on, and it
Oh,
crosses
yeah.
over into a lot of different genres. So that's one. And some people might push back on this, but I'm going to say also Final Destination Bloodlines. It's for me, it much more comedy to me than horror, and
Ye
maybe
I
that's
would
because
agree.
I'm jaded. Yeah, but it's but much more comedy than horror. Even though it's very gory, very bloody, but I, I'm not. I never have gotten the we're trying to actually scare you from
Yeah.
almost any of those the movies in that franchise.
Yeah, if anything, the gore in that franchise is to release the tension. It's like a laugh break for you. You're supposed to kinda be like, "Oh, caught off guard," and just giggle about it, and then wait for the next moment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Guys, it's 18 watching 7 likes. Come on, it's cheaper than free. Just to just do it. Yeah, you could hit that like button for me. Thanks, guy. And let's see if there's anybody else here. Yep, we got another person, Adam Schofield. Hey, Adam. So I used to think when I was a kid that black and white films were that way because they got old. That's interesting. Like
That's
people go
great.
gray. That is interesting. I've never heard that before, but I love it.
What's funny is for actual film, that's kind of the case. Like, they'll yellow or in many cases, turn pink too, just, not black and white.
Yes, yes, they don't turn quite black and white. Prince has a question for you. And if I'm skipping over some more, it's just because people are just saying hi to each other. So nothing personal out there, guys. What's been your biggest disappointment of the year movie wise?
Oh, this one is kind of easy to answer because I have a list that I've been trying to keep up with and watch more and more. But the biggest one for me, which is kind of a silly one, I guess, to have expectations for, but my answer here is the Fear Street Prom Queen movie on Netflix. I was very happy with the trilogy that they did a few years ago. I was shocked that it was so high quality. I loved that it was set in three different eras, so we could get three different full-on feelings behind it. And I thought the acting was great. And then they made this new one, and it felt like it lost all of its heart, all of the things that made it special and unique. And I don't know, it just felt like a really generic. I use the service, so I don't want to talk down to it, but it felt like a Tubi movie almost.
Right, right. I haven't watched it yet, and this is one my daughter and I are gonna watch together, and we just haven't aligned the time to do it yet, align the schedules yet. But I'm with you on the trilogy. I was like, man, this was
Yeah,
really pretty good. I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm still gonna watch it, but I've heard some bad things. So you're not the first person to say say
nice.
that. Uh, KB says, Ryan, I told you I'd pick up Robin Hood when you showed it to your son. I finally did 5 minutes ago. And it I I will say that he's being truthful because when I was on his stream, he mentioned that we were gonna talk Robin. He's like, "I still need to get that." So he apparently went and just bought it.
Good choice, good choice.
For instance, I handled Blade pretty well. That was my first horror movie. If you wanna call that horror, go for it. Absolutely. Give me horror action. Yeah, I'm all set. That's where Blade
Oh,
fits
yeah.
in, horror action. Psychological thriller horror, I'm all in. Serial killer shit is my cup of tea.
Same.
Very good. Seven, see Seven if you have not seen Seven, or even Silence of the Lambs, something along those lines. Uh, hmm. Explains on how the films are aging. The older they get, the more they need commentary because you can't hear anything. And KB says it was the last copy of Robin Hood, and that is an excellent place to segue into our first movie. So I'm gonna let you take it away and tell the good people exactly what you had me watch, Ryan.
All right. So I'm going to try my hardest to be unbiased here because this is a movie that has been near and dear to my heart since I was a child. This came out when I was 4 years old. And of course, we were talking about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. This is the beautiful 4K set. Came in a hard box with a steelbook, big book. The Arrow released just a couple years ago over in the UK. And this is a masterpiece, in my opinion. This is basically just the classic Robin Hood story. You've heard it before. You know exactly what it is. You know all the story beats. So, what could they do to make it special? And basically, they make this insanely human and make you invested in all of the characters. Kevin Costner plays our Robin Hood, and he is swept across this land with Morgan Freeman, where he's trying to find his way back home to find the land that's been pillaged that he used to live on. And he, starts meeting a couple characters, starts getting a little group together, and they've got to go and meet Little John and the prince and all these other the sheriff and all the things that you've seen and all the versions you've seen of Robin Hood. But the people that are in this truly set this movie apart, because not only you got Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman, you got Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who's amazing as our Maid Marian. You got Christian Slater, who is to be very, very on the other side of the spectrum for a moment. He is hot as hell in this movie. Christian Slater is beautiful. Alan Rickman is this weird. He plays the sheriff, but he's like this sleazy bastard that you hate, but also just love to see him be on screen and do what he's doing, because he's got some weird mannerisms through this entire thing. Michael McShane's in this. Brian Blessed's in this. But the big one, I love Michael Wincott's character in this, and he is just this massive dick of a person who's just got it out for Robin. There's some incredible scenes in here, and probably the most iconic one that you've all probably seen on the poster is there's this beautiful scene that they have with bows and arrows that are lit on fire. And man, to this day, watching that scene will set your soul on fire for movies, because it is so cinematic. It is beautiful. The sounds they evoke in that is just astounding. And now I'm just gushing instead of going over the summary. But yeah, Robin Hood.
I mean, you recommended the movie, so you are allowed to gush. You are definitely allowed to gush. Side note on Michael Wincott, does he not have like one of the best voices of all time?
He's incredible. And then to like full circle moment for me, the fact that he came back in old, or not old, sorry, Nope. Jordan Peele's Nope. Like, he is so great in those. And then that book ended this career that I was just completely enamored in him. And now, Jordan Peele's one of my most revered modern filmmakers. So yeah, it was just perfect, because like as a kid, he was the one that I just wanted to see every scene he was in, because he was so incredible.
His performance in The Crow is amazing, by the
Yep.
way. Uh, that's also another side note. Some people have already commented here on the movie. We got Ragey 19. I think I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, let me know. Says I can't get past Kevin Costner. Sorry.
I don't get the hate.
Ooh.
I get that the accent's not great, but I don't get the hate.
Yeah. Uh, for oh my god, I'm old. Start the commentary. I think maybe getting close to caveman's bedtime. I'm not sure. And Holland just saying, "Hey." Well, Holland said, "Hey" to us both. I apologize. And
Stop Holland.
yes, subtitles. Sorry, I'm old. All right. And finally, as long as at the end we cover cousins and spoons.
You know it.
Mhm. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and start. Uh, let's start with Robin, because I've seen before this. I've never seen this version, but I've seen most other versions of Robin. I'm
Right.
not sure why I skipped over this one. And I'm not a Kevin Costner hater, so I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that this version of Robin Hood though is a little bit different from most versions of Robin Hood?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things here is we get a real expansive cinematography in this movie. So you get a lot more of the landscape and like a feel of the area that you're in. They shot a lot of it over in Europe, and it looks beautiful. So that's a big part of that. But yeah, Robin is not British in any way, like he's meant to be, but Kevin Costner could not be bothered to have an accent in this.
No.
I've never been bothered by that in any way. I think that he still fits in that world, and with the backstory of like he's been gone for a while, there's a lot of ways that you could argue that he wouldn't have an accent. But I mean, the biggest thing here is in most of these movies, Robin is like the beautiful hero. Like even going back all the way to the Errol Flynn stuff. Errol Flynn was the hero personified. And Kevin Costner is in a way, but really he's not like the heartthrob type character that you would expect. That's really more for Christian Slater. It's it's a really interesting dynamic that Kevin Costner brings to all these people. And I think he's pretty incredible in the role because the chemistry that he has with everybody one on one is palpable. It's like he knows and cares about all these people.
Okay. So what about other than the British factor? Um, I think what I'm trying to get at more is just the type of person Robin Hood is here as compared to in other versions. You mentioned Errol Flynn. Definitely not the swashbuckling type,
No,
but I mean there are some scenes where we get that, but it's not the same, not
right,
the same, and also not the brooding character that Russell Crowe portrayed,
right.
and not whatever Taron Egerton was doing in that Robin Hood.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, yeah. So for me, he was different that way, and also it was a little odd because we never really got, or not. I won't say never, but it took us a really long time to get to the part of the Robin Hood mythos that we're most familiar with, which is
Right.
robbing the rich and giving to the poor. So I was kind of waiting around like, okay, is does he do that in this movie? What's going on with that? So that's where I was kind of getting stuck a little bit on Robin.
I get
Um,
that part for sure. The big
mhm,
thing for me though is he is not he is, but the story is taking its time to make you invested in all of these characters. And I really feel like in the Errol Flynn one specifically, you don't get enough time to like truly love all these side characters. And with this one, you get to see heartbreak. You get to see like people's families ripped apart. You get to see people really struggling. You get to see struggles. Even Kevin Costner fighting in a way that is expected to not go well, and suddenly they end up just mutually respecting each other. But yeah, I feel like the time it takes to get there, once you get to Robin the Rich, you're now much more invested in that storyline, and it feels like more of a victory, at least for me.
right. Um, uh, I get that. My thing is what starts to happen for me a little bit is not necessarily that I don't get invested in the character because I get why they're doing it.
Yep.
Is that sometimes the stakes tend to get a little bit lost for me for this movie. So that's where it's kind of like, okay, let's what is the whole point of all of this?
Right.
And we'll get to more of that a little bit. One of the best things, not best things, but one of the best things early in the movie, I will say, is the reveal of the sheriff of Nottingham, aka Alan Rickman, where the camera just kind of zooms in on his face. He's got the mask and then he pulls it off.
Yep.
That was amazing. Um, Alan Rickman in general is amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about him? You did mention him when you were doing the synopsis though.
Yeah, I mean, in this movie, he is. I feel like he takes a little bit of a back seat for a lot of the story because historically with this story, the sheriff is sort of out of the way, and honestly, it gives us more Michael Wincott, so I'm not necessarily against it. The big thing is Alan Rickman is just I don't know, like unsettling in this movie is probably the best way to say it. There's some really weird relationships. So one of the biggest
Mhm.
ones is in all of the best Robin Hood stories, you get this old like castle witch that lives down in the dungeon that we go to for some discussion or for some let's look at our fortunes and see how things are going to happen with Robin. And the relationship between her and the sheriff is so freaking weird. Like
Yeah.
he enters the room and she's like, "Ugh," and it just makes you feel dirty. And everything about that, I feel like I don't know, it feels more medieval to me. It feels more like, yeah, we're just kind of like if you take away these nice clothes, we're kind of just living in the slums, gross people hoping for the best because we're not, we're not like filthy rich or anything like that. But yeah, the sheriff has a weird relationship with her. He's really trying to obviously hit on Maid Marian for a lot of this movie, kidnaps her. There's a bunch of those discussions. Um, but God, he's got the most iconic line, and I don't know if we want to say the line yet, but that line delivery near the end of this movie is one of the best lines in cinema. I've loved it since I was 5 years old, the first time I saw this, and I still repeat that line to this day.
You can say it. Go for it.
Alan Rickman, in the funniest accent ever, yells out, "I'll eat your heart with a spoon," and it's freaking amazing. And or cut your heart out with a spoon, whatever it is that he says. Like it's this thing where you can really look at him and go, "Yeah, that guy's so weird and gross. He would probably try to stab me with a spoon and pull my heart out."
To be honest, my favorite part of that is he's asked, "Why a spoon?"
Yeah.
That was my favorite part, and he gets so frustrated with the question. It's because it'll take longer, and he kind of get it, and then that was my favorite part of
Yeah.
that exchange. All right, Princess. Just real quickly, much props to Halliburton for a gutsy effort in the NBA Finals. Tyrese Halliburton, who tore his Achilles in Game 7 for any basketball fans that are out there. And why did you curse yourself, Dell? Not sure what we're talking about. I'm not sure how I cursed myself. Let me know, because I'm not sure how I cursed myself. All right. I'm so old. I need intertitles. There you go for Steve. And we're having a conversation back and forth. I'm just kind of looking for anybody who's got comments for about the movie here really quick, and I'd rather hear no accent than a bad accent for Steve. Fairly,
Same.
there are a lot of bad accents in movies. There are a lot of bad accents in movies. And question Ryan, both Waterworld and Prince of Thieves are peak cinema to me as well. I'm so happy. Somehow I've never seen Waterworld. Maybe I have an aversion to super duper big budget Costner movies. I've seen a lot of his movies, just not those two. Well,
Yeah.
now I've seen Robert Hood. So
Waterworld's not as good, but it is sort of in that same, I don't know, the same lens because yeah, big budget, that era, Pete Costner at least.
if not Costner, who would you have cast?
Ooh, at that time, that is a tough question.
And yeah, and you got to remember this is a 1991 movie. So who was around in 1991 that could have done it?
Well, and not only that, this is a big movie. Like they have to make hundreds of millions of dollars to make this successful. So it's not like you could just throw anybody in there. But
Right.
there, I mean, there's a lot that maybe you could have done. And honestly, maybe he's in the movie itself already. Maybe Michael Wincott probably could have done really well as Robin himself, actually.
See that. I could see that. Um, Off the top of my head, I was thinking maybe he'd be very young at this time. Well, it might not have worked because he might have been too young. Might be maybe Tom Cruise at that time.
Maybe he would have sold the tickets. That's for sure.
Yeah, he would have sold the tickets. He would have sold the tickets. Well, in '91, would he have sold the tickets? Because this isn't that pre Rain Man or is that right after Rain Man? I can't
It's
remember.
it's shortly after Rain Man, but it had already had. I mean, the '80s. He had a handful of pretty major hits there,
True,
at
he did.
least.
He did. Risky Business for the Win. I think that was my first Tom Cruise movie. Pretty sure it was
Ooh,
Risky Business.
that's a good question.
My first Tom Cruise, not his first, not Tom Cruise's first movie, but that was definitely my first Tom Cruise movie was Risky Business.
I don't know what mine was. That's a great question,
Weirdly, the closest to the '91 live action Robin Hood has to be animated Disney Robin Hood.
and it's incredible.
Yeah, fair. So I'll do my best, Moody Dude. Thanks for the advice. I guess that's part of the other conversation that they were having. If they had cast Arnold, everyone would have heard an accent. Oh, that would have been an entirely different movie.
Yeah, it would have been a comedy.
Yeah, that would have definitely have been a comedy. Best British Robin Hood might be John Cleese in Time Bandits. Time Bandits was awesome.
I could see that.
Jeff's mom is here. Good evening, Jane Doe. How you doing? And of course, we are acknowledging her. And Time Bandits is a hole in my viewing. Definitely check out Time Bandits. Awesome, awesome movie. I'm gonna pause right there so we can get back to the movie. Um, so one of the things that happens is we the plot gets set in motion fairly early. You mentioned his visits down to the witch. So help me out here because this is where I was having a little bit of a problem and
Sure.
with the stakes, especially with the stakes. Because he maybe I missed something, but it was like he goes down, he sees the witch, and he's asking about Robin Hood. And what I got out of this scene was he hangs out with a black man, kill him. That's what I got out of that scene. Did I miss something?
Yeah, a little bit because there is already a vendetta here that kind of sets the stage for the whole film that we got to remember, and that is that in a way, this is a revenge story. Kevin Costner's
Definitely is.
part of the Loxley family, and
Yeah.
the sheriff and all them, they came and they essentially commandeered the castle that the Loxley family
Right.
lived in and demolished it. And so Kevin Costner now has it in his mind that he is going to come out and avenge his family to the people that took it from him, which happened to be this sheriff and this whole corrupt leadership angle. And so
Right. So
the
hold
idea
on
of
before you
overthrowing them is early in there.
right. So I got that part from Robin Hood's standpoint, from Robin Hood's point of view, but from the sheriff's point of view, I didn't get why this was so important.
So the big thing is he's used to everybody just following directions, and Robin came and bested all of his men immediately. There was like no there wasn't even any hesitation. He took everybody out. Even Michael Wincott's character that he basically had to retreat with his tail between his legs, and now the sheriff's like, "What the hell? No, nobody can best me." And so now I got to go after this guy. And it seems silly, but that is inherent to his character is that he's such an ego-driven asshole at heart. Even one really failed interaction means, yeah, this guy's number one on my hit list. And so that starts it, but then these things keep piling up. And so it just keeps getting worse and worse and sort of tumbling as it goes on because there's what, like four interactions where Robin very handily gets the best of all of the sheriff's men.
Yes, he does that repeatedly throughout the movie. I brought up the black man in the movie, which is Morgan Freeman. Uh, what would you think of A, his character, and of course B, the performance?
We'll start with the performance because that's less awkward. Morgan Freeman in the 90s is like peak Morgan Freeman to me. There was something about like he had already done like his history with the electric company and done some major roles, but this and like Shawshank and a couple other things just solidified him as, man, everybody that you are on camera with, you are going to bring out the best of everybody because it's you. And he shines in everything. And yeah, it starts out a little weird because inherently the history of the medieval era and that part of the world, it's very colonial, and of course there's, slave stories that get brought on here immediately, and that happens here in a weird way because he gets rescued, and so therefore Morgan Freeman is now basically, I'm going to be here to protect your life like you protected mine. And it essentially is like I'm volunteering to be your slave for the rest of our lives. And it's a little awkward, but honestly, historically, it's not that far fetched with the way it's treated. I truly love the way that he interacts with a lot of these people. But the big thing to me, in it's 1991. It's not that far past 1965 when a lot of people that are still inherently racist to this day think, "Oh, we solved racism." It was still just one generation past that. The big thing for me is Robin in the entire film is like, go live your life, man. I don't want to do anything to keep you here. He just respects him mutually. And you can tell that Morgan just feels this inherent intense loyalty. And it again brings out the best of their chemistry. And it's Morgan Freeman's character is slightly awkward because he's very matter of fact in the way that he speaks. But it does lend to some really great comedic moments with his dialogue because he's there's so many like in that opening 20 minutes, there's the whole action sequence, and then he'll say something, and Robin's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yes, look, they're right there." And it's like very blunt the way that he's saying things. And it's I don't know. His character is great. I love their interactions. What did you think of Morgan Freeman for the first time here?
Well, everything you say about his acting is absolutely true. It's for me, it's always been true. Even in his later years,
Yeah.
he's going to. He has so much gravitas that he can't help but make things better when he's on the camera,
Yep.
right? And it doesn't really doesn't matter the role he's playing. Um, for me, I have a weird kind of relationship with this particular role after watching it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, for me, Morgan Freeman, as much as I admire him as an actor and a person, a lot of his performances tend to fall into that magical Negro trope.
For sure.
And this one is like it's teetering on the edge, and I could see either way how it is and it's not. And then on top of that, to go piggyback off what you were saying, in this movie, the way their relationship is handled is actually I thought pretty good because what they did in this movie, which is a little different than in some other movies set during this era,
Yeah.
the entire relationship between him and Robin is really on his terms.
Yep.
So I appreciated that. Um, because like you said, he gets rescued right at the beginning of the movie. This was the first 5 minutes of the movie,
Literally.
and then he tells Robin, I'm bound to you. I'm vowing myself to protect you now.
Right.
And like you said, Robin's like, you can go on, go back, go away. And he doesn't. But at the same time, he lets him know. He actually says it in my own terms, like physically says it to
Yep.
Robin. And you can tell in their interactions that, Robin, you can't tell me to do anything other than be where I'm going to be.
Right.
This is just what it is. I'm gonna be here. And the whole deal with the slave portion of it is like because he tells Robin, he says, look, I know where we are, I know how people are, so we're gonna pretend that I'm your slave while we're
Yep.
here. And Robin kind of got this whole dumbfounded, like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, that's what it is. It's gonna be safer that way, trust me. And then
Yep.
and they go on through the rest of the movie. So I did like that aspect of him. And the reason I think he still kind of fits into that magical Negro trope because like all magical Negroes, he can do things in the movie that no one else in the movie can do.
He's good at everything.
Yes, he's great at everything. So that's where I am on Morgan Freeman. So yes,
Yep.
I really did enjoy the character and his relationship with Robin. So I can give him a pass on the parts that I was like, not. So but I don't know if I've ever seen a Morgan Freeman performance where I was just like, "Nah, he wasn't good here." I just
Yeah,
haven't seen
I would
it.
agree. Yeah, he's been great in literally everything, and that's the thing. It's not even just that he's good at acting; it's that just standing there without opening his mouth, he's just oozing charisma in every second.
Yeah, yeah, and when he speaks, I mean, it's Morgan Freeman. What are you gonna
Right,
do?
you're gonna
Yeah, and
listen.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. When he speaks, it just sounds authoritative, no matter what he's saying. And then if he puts that extra oomph on it,
Right,
then you really have no choice but to be like, yeah, that's just amazing. That is that's great.
philosophical. Gotta listen
Yes,
to it.
fill us up. Yeah, and I'm sure you've probably seen this meme online, but there's a thousand of them on them, but there's
Yeah.
one where it's got it's a picture of him and there's a bunch of text underneath it and it says, "Right now you're reading this in my voice." And it's just so true because I mean it's just an iconic and ubiquitous voice.
Yep,
So I can't deny Morgan Freeman. It's just it's pretty much that simple.
he's magnetic.
One actor I thought I could deny, and I wasn't ready for what they were doing in this movie. You mentioned Mr. Christian Slater.
Oh,
So he he came on the screen, and I knew Kevin Costner, I knew Alan Rickman, Morgan Freeman. I knew they were in the movie,
Right.
and even Michael Wincott, I knew they were in the movie. But I really did not know or forgot that excuse me, Christian Slater was in this film.
Yeah.
He pops on. I'm like, hey, yeah, Christian Slater, and then he starts acting like he's really trying to get a trophy out of this. He's really going for a statue here. Is it just me, or is he just going hard on this?
Yeah. He Man, there's no better way to say this. First off, he is looking like he's trying to be a teen heartthrob, and I mean,
Wait,
like, on the covers of magazines, in the newsstand checkouts, he is going all for that crowd, and it works. He looks great in this movie. Will Scarlet is his name, and he's got the attitude. He's got, like, the sort of ethereal dreamy shots that they zoom in on his hair and everything. Yeah, Christian Slater is incredible in this.
yes, he is really good. People are talking about their favorite Terry Gilliam movies in the chat. Um, yeah, he is really well. Um, Now the character I had some issues with was Maid Marian. Um, well, okay, so we're introduced to Maid Marian. Robin goes back and he goes into the place where Maid Marian is living, and he has to defend himself from someone in armor, and he's having this big knockdown, drag out fight, and lo and behold, unmasks and it's Maid Marian. So
Yep,
my issue is that we don't see that Maid Marian ever again in the movie.
yep.
She's suddenly now just a damsel in distress, and that was my big issue with the movie, with her character in the movie. Uh, Help me out here. Am I wrong, or am I overlooking something, or what
No,
about her works for you?
I mean, honestly, the biggest thing is that she is delivering the most emotional lines throughout the entire movie. She is kind of the one that is, I don't know, like, linking one scene to the next in quite a few of these, and it's through like really meaningful dialogue. She says it in a way that is giving a hell of a performance, I think, in quite a bit of this. But then, like, I mean, yeah, you're right. She's hamstrung for a lot of this movie. She's either uh, kidnapped and can't move, or she's just literally not a part of what we're doing at the moment, so you never see her. But really, that final act, she kind of comes back and is a little feisty again, but she's not giving any indication that she's like combat trained or anything like that, which I don't know. I guess a part of me just overlooks it because it's not something that I needed from that character. The story they're telling is sort of about a damsel in distress, and in the story of Robin Hood itself, that's kind of always been the case. I'm not expecting Maid Marian to save the day necessarily. I'm expecting Robin and all the other dudes with him to go in and save the day. But yeah, I think she holds her own still in the third act in at least a handful of scenes, but nothing like hand to hand combat or anything like that. Which I kind of wish now that you say that, I kind of wish they'd brought that back at least once.
Yeah, so yeah, the story of Robin is always about, Maid Marian being rescued. I
Yeah,
get it. But when you showed me that right at the beginning, I'm like, "Oh, okay, so she can actively defend herself if need
she's a
be."
badass.
So then during that 3rd act, we got the big final fight, and I was rather disappointed there because Robin's having this fight. I'm waiting on her to jump in and actually fight. But instead, she's like kind of kicking things in the way or kind of tossing things.
Yep.
I was like, oh, please do something. You get in there. We know you can. So so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I was with Maid Marian, and that was a big hindrance for me. I will admit that, and I'm sorry. I'm looking down at some of my notes here. We talked about everything other than, well, not everything, but some of the things we didn't really are kind of the technical things here. And you mentioned a little bit about the flaming arrows. Um,
Ugh, love
an
that scene.
amazing scene, and we actually get bullet time on this arrow. Uh, is this the first bullet time in movies or no? Because I know The Matrix would make it famous later on in '99. This was
Yeah.
'91.
This was 91, and technically John Woo had done it at least once or twice before this, I believe. This is certainly, I think, one of the most unique ways that we got it, especially in a blockbuster. But yeah, that entire scene is, to me, it's still movie magic. I mean, and forgive me for being a little bit of like a very, I don't know, cis het white man about this, but as a little boy that is looking for adventure, watching a scene with a bunch of dudes playing in tree houses and setting things on fire, like that's amazing.
Fair point. Fair point. Yeah. Yeah, that scene was really, really strong. Um, and you mentioned the sets and the setting a lot. The cinematography here was pretty good. Was pretty
Yeah.
was gorgeous actually for a lot of the movie. We get to see a lot of we get a lot of the countryside, and in some cases, I was actually getting Princess Bride vibes from some of the
Yeah.
scenery.
I could see that.
Um, okay, okay, but I did really like the way that the movie looked overall. Because one thing that it had one up on Princess Bride was when I look at that movie, as good as they look, they always look like sets to me.
Yep, they are.
Right. And it's one thing to know it's a set, but it's another thing for me to physically look at it and go, "Oh, that's a set." And that's what I get with Princess Bride,
Yeah.
and I don't get that here.
Yeah,
And even if
there's
they are
something
just sets.
more this is a weird word to use, I guess, here, but like horizontal about this film. In the
Mhm.
Princess Bride, everything is much closer shot, and on this movie, they will show you this expansive forest as they're, hey, let's introduce this scene, and they show you, I don't know, like 200 trees in your little field of
Yeah,
vision, and you'll see the character walking like 3 miles ahead of you, and then the next scene you'll be up close with them, and so Jesus, they're really in it. Like this is not somewhere where they're in the backwoods of a lot and they're just hanging out with Andre the Giant reaching up on something that's 12 feet
right,
tall.
right,
Yeah, this
right.
is a beautifully made movie.
Alright, let me check in with the chat because there is a question directly for you, not related to this movie, but he says, "Ryan, I wanna get your initial thoughts about Denis Villeneuve directing the new Bond movie, and who is your pick for the next Bond?"
So here's a hot take. I have never been a giant James Bond person. I've not even seen all the movies. They all just feel exactly the same to me. I watched like 6 of them, and I'm like, "Okay, I've watched 6 of the same movie. I don't need to see anymore." So I've not even seen any of, like, the classic, like, misogynist Bonds. There's nothing interesting about them. I think Denis, uh, maybe a weird word to describe this too is, I feel like he's an obvious pick. This will be the 3rd, like, huge franchise that he's done, and he's been very successful. Well, actually, I guess if you count Sicario, that could be the 4th. He's been successful with every single one, and he's touching on classic cinema with stuff like Blade Runner and Dune, and he's bringing it into a modern era, and people are eating it up. So yeah, he seems like an obvious choice for this. Who's the next Bond? I think if this was asked 8 years ago, it was a really obvious Idris Elba for me because I have adored that man for years. But now I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that are wanting something like an Aaron Taylor Johnson, which I don't think the man can really pull it off in a way that has the charisma that James Bond needs. But I think the best thing that they could do right now is hire somebody that you've never heard of. Don't have any preconceived notions. Make it a nobody. Have a really extensive casting process. Get somebody who is an everyday man that you can make look like a private spy, and let's build him into a movie star rather than starting from a movie star and going backwards.
Actually, I agree with that, and I agree with what you said on Aaron Taylor Johnson. Uh, he's someone who I think has grown as an actor, but I don't know that he's got James Bond.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. What now the other popular choice, you mentioned Idris Elba. The other popular choice is Henry Cavill. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
He's he's too. I don't know. He's too when you see him on screen, you're not gonna think there's James Bond. You're gonna think there's Henry Cavill, who's The Witcher and Superman and 9 other characters that are iconic at this point. And so it's working against you to cast somebody like that that you know that can be brooding, that can be strong, that can come off as like this manly man type. But we don't need that. We need somebody that when you look at him, you're not just seeing the actor, you're seeing the character. If you go Henry Cavill, you'll never see James Bond.
On top of that, I think he's just too big.
Yeah.
He is gigantic. He's a huge, huge guy. All right, KB says, and Morgan Freeman was a few years removed from Lean on Me and 1 year away from Unforgiven. Great run. Yeah, absolutely a great run.
Sure thing.
Let's see. Were they trying to lethal weaponize Robin Hood? That's an
In a way.
interesting point. That is, I've never thought about that. That is interesting. I, I like that actually. You do get that kind of Riggs and Murtaugh kind of back and forth with them a little bit. I, I get that. I get that. I think that maybe more applies to the Taron Egerton Jamie Foxx one though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Video man Gizmo, what's going on, Giz? Haven't seen Giz in a while. Glad you're here tonight. On my way to my no paid job. Sorry to hear that. But happy go lucky. Have a great stream. Thank you, Giz. And depending on how free your time is, how many movies can you watch in a week?
Man,
Mm,
this is gonna be a very different answer than normal. It's June 25th. So far this month, I think I've watched 23 or 24 movies in June, which is way more than normal, and that's not even counting the ones that I've worked on. We just happened to ask my mom actually for permission to say, "Hey, can we just plan on every Saturday you come watch the kids and the wife and I are going to go to the theater literally every single Saturday. We've got AMC A list.
wow.
Let's actually just use it for the benefit that we're already paying for instead of going maybe once a month, maybe twice a month if we're lucky. I mean, we were still
Right,
saving money that way, but this way we have gone the last 3 or 4 weekends, and every single weekend we've seen at least 2 movies, 2 or 3 times, or 1 or 2 times. It was a triple feature, and it's been freaking incredible to be able to stay on top of everything that's coming out that I want to see. There's been a couple things that either the timing didn't work out right, but normally I wouldn't have seen 28 years later until like 6 months from now. I wouldn't have
right,
seen the Phoenician Scheme till like 4 years from now. I haven't been up to date with the Wes Anderson movie in years. It was always after it came out, and now like I'm discovering things. Like we went and saw Dangerous Animals, which I thought was going to be just really bad, and we were just going to go and basically laugh that we watched that. I freaking loved that movie. It was entertaining as hell. It wasn't like a great movie, but it was so
right.
much fun. And yeah, I've done surprisingly well this month. I'm pretty happy. It used to be like maybe 2 or 3 movies a week, and now I'm shooting for like 6, 7, 8, maybe.
There you go. There you go. I've never seen a Wes Anderson movie in theaters.
I
That's
think this was my first one. I think, and honestly, I think it really enhanced his vibe because that's really what he makes now is just a vibe movie. Like
yes.
if you're in with his style, you're gonna love it. But I didn't even love it because I don't love Wes Anderson stuff. But it definitely
Yeah.
meant more in the theater.
Um, I'm definitely. I wouldn't say completely over it, but I'm kind of over it with his style because right now
Yep.
he's just making movies that are just his style and not much more.
Yep.
They're going to remake Doctor No. I'm sure biggest obstacle seems to be the scripts. Interesting. I did not know that that was a thing. Um, yes, Doctor No is definitely well the first Bond movie that Connery was in, and definitely one of the misogynist ones. They'll go full tilt Disney on remakes. Giz Villeneuve should not do a James Bond. We need someone who brings back masculine Bond. Give the job to S. Craig Zoller and stop making Bond cry. I'm a big fan of now destroying Bond. You don't like depressed Bond? What's going on, Giz?
That's a terrible take, I think.
Actually, I'm with you. Um, but I understand because the people who are fans of James Bond, they're kinda in it for that.
Yeah.
I just assumed Pablo Pascal was gonna be the next God knows, he's in
Pablo
everything now.
Pascal.
Yeah, he's in everything now, so I'm kinda getting over him right
Yeah.
right about now. A Saturday double feature. Alright, Pascal, I meant she's been up since 2 AM, sorry. Understood, understood. No biggie. Alright, so anything else for Robin Hood that we did not discuss that you would like to?
Sure. One scene, we brought up Christian Slater, but the whole fighting in the river scene that Robin does early in this, I think, is beautifully shot. I think it's really fun. I think the way that it gets resolved is pretty unique for this movie. It's cliche because it's Robin Hood, so you've seen the scene before, but not quite like this. I don't think. Little
Mhm.
John is great in this. It's this weird, just overweight dude that is just hilarious. We didn't even
Yeah.
shout him out at all. That's Nick Brimble. The ending of this is wild. One of the things that we talked about, the witch lady. Should throw out there that there's this scene where the sheriff brings her in there because he says, "I have to marry Maid Marian," and the witch grabs
Yes.
her belly and says, "We're gonna put a baby in her," and it's the
Yeah.
creepiest fucking thing that ever could happen in this movie. And honestly, it just enhances it for me to show like these people are real villains. Like this is super sinister at the heart of it. And it's crazy. And then of course at the end you get this random, oh, speaking of James Bond, here's Sean Connery. But yeah, this
Yeah,
movie.
that was wild. That was I had no clue. I'm watching it, and then all of a sudden, Sean Connery just pops up
Yeah,
as the king. I was like, "What?"
for like 2 minutes maybe.
Yeah,
He says 4 lines and he's out.
yeah. Okay, well, that came out of nowhere, but
Yeah.
that was, yeah, that was just crazy to me, but, yeah, yeah, all those things. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to my actual overall thoughts on Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and I'm going to start with Robin Hood himself, and I'm going to preface all of this by saying I don't hate Kevin Costner. I like Kevin Costner, but in this particular movie, I wasn't feeling him at all. Um, for one, and it's going to come back to why the acting was kind of important for me in this movie, but for him, it was like no matter what was happening, he just had this kind of smirk on his face the whole time. And no matter what anybody said, no matter what was going on, he just had this like, like I know something you don't kind of look
Yeah.
all the time, and it didn't really fit to me. So I didn't get the full blown Kevin Costner experience from this. I didn't get Bull Durham Costner or Field of Dreams Costner or
Oh, Field of
Untouchables
Dreams.
Costner. I just got like maybe I'm thinking about the paycheck that I'm cashing Costner. That's what it kind of felt like
I get
for a
that
lot
a
of
little
this
bit.
movie. And so with him and the way he was written, also well, the way the movie is written, and why I couldn't feel the stakes of it all is because we kind of meander towards it. And what I mean by that is, yeah, we see his father, we see what happens to his father pretty early. And then when he finds out what happens to his father, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to avenge this. And then we go off into 1,000 different directions for seemingly no particular reason. Right. It's like, I'm like, dude, can we get to it? Sense of urgency here, revenge, remember that
Yeah.
stuff. So that was one of my issues with the movie, and the other one was with the acting. Other than Costner, it wasn't that anybody else was bad; it's that they were all kind of doing something different.
Mhm.
Um, so Morgan Freeman, he's doing the Morgan Freeman thing, right?
Yes.
No problem there. Christian Slater, he's not doing Christian Slater. He's like trying to make an Oscar reel out of every scene. And then Alan Rickman, he was on Broadway.
Yep.
That's where he came from. He's a stage actor. Now he was doing that. So and then Maid Marian was kind of somewhere in the middle. And Michael Wincott was Michael Wincott. He's always doing his thing. So it's like none of these things are coming together for me. So
Right.
that was my issues, my big issues with the movie. Visually, really enjoyed the movie. Outstanding look to the movie. The battle scenes they worked. I really enjoyed all of those, and then the finale, which was pretty wild, kind of pulled me back into the movie. Um, so overall, I would say I didn't hate Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, but it didn't quite work for me,
I get it.
if that makes sense.
I get it. I'm sad, but I get it.
Yeah, I know. But I will say I'm very glad to have watched it because it's one of those, where you hear so much about it and it's like,
Yeah.
I need to watch this movie at some point. So I'm definitely glad to have watched it. And it's one where if I now that I know what I know going in, I might enjoy better on a second watch.
Yeah, probably.
So I'm okay with that. Um, there's that. Okay. So with that, and let me see if there were any other comments on it before we move on. Yeah, there's some people mentioning Sean Connery. Yeah, Connery turns to reform the Untouchables. Yes, in my best Sean Connery, outstanding. And Denholm Elliott is Robin Hood. I'm not sure what we're talking about there. Or do you know what's going on there?
I don't know the name Denholm Elliott, I don't think.
Either. Yeah, you got me. You got me there, Adam. So
Oh, it's yeah, he played Robin before. He's in, Indiana Jones and stuff. Yeah, you'd probably
oh,
recognize the face. He's a character actor.
okay, okay. So yeah, I did not know that. All right. So let's go ahead and transition over to the next movie. And I left it not in the room, so it's not even up here. It's not in the room, but we can talk about the movie. It is from 1995. There you go. Thank you. And I have exactly that edition. That's the Kino, right?
Yep.
Yep. So Kino Lorber, it is Clockers from Spike Lee, 1995. And in this movie, we're of course in Spike Lee's favorite place, Brooklyn, New York. We get to meet a kid named Strike. Uh, he's a neighborhood drug dealer, crack dealer. This is during the crack era, and he kind of hangs out on these benches that are in the middle of the projects, and he sells crack there. He's got a little crew that he kind of runs, and he's working for a guy named Rodney, and he's trying to advance within Rodney's organization. He's trying to move up, and Rodney kind of takes him over to another place that he runs, which is like the next step up, the next where you get promoted to. And he tells Strike that Strike, played by Mackay Pfeiffer, by the way, and Rodney by Delroy Lindo. And he tells Strike that the guy that's running the spot is actually a thief and needs to be dealt with, needs to be taken out. And he kind of sort of talks around it, but you know what he meant. And lo and behold, the guy winds up dead, and the cops are sniffing around trying to figure out who did it. So we have to also figure out who did it because along the way, Strike has went and talked to his brother about the situation. His brother is a kind of straight laced guy who's not involved in this world at all, and who's also talked to some other people about this. And so we're trying to figure out who did this. His brother has confessed to this, so they have picked him up and put him in jail. Harvey Keitel plays Rocco Klein, the lead detective on this case, and he's not so convinced that his brother Victor, played by Isaiah Washington, has done anything. So he's trying to get to the bottom of this. Also in the cast is, I mentioned Mackay Pfeiffer. John Turturro is his partner. You remember John Turturro from Do the Right Thing, Transformers, Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Lots of things. He's been in. Um, and there's quite a few other actors that are in. One I want to shout out. Well, two I want to shout out. Actually, Sticky Fingers uh, and Frederick Starr, both from rap group Onyx. And here's my name drop of the day is I actually went to high school with Fredro Starr. Um, I will
Nice.
say this. I wasn't friends with him, and I only had a few interactions with him, but he was one of the kids that everybody knew in school.
Mm.
And what you see on screen is what he was in high school. I swear to you. There's so in every if you've seen him, he's made a quite the acting career for himself, and almost all of his characters are identical, and that is him. That is that is absolutely him. Um, so yeah, always big shouts out to Fredro Starr, aka Freddie, as we knew him back in high school. So
Nice.
yeah, beginning of the movie, we mentioned well, you know what? Before we the actual beginning of the movie, we
Get
get
to
the
talk about those
opening credits.
credits.
Yeah, we get those opening credits. Oh, and for anybody who's not seen Clockers, what we get is basically a string of crime scene photos, and some of them are in pretty close up and in shocking detail. What do you think of those credits?
I mean, you're setting the tone for a movie pretty damn well if you're going to start with a bunch of black men that have been just straight cold murdered. And I mean, first off, it's a Spike Lee movie, so you know kind of what you're getting into. But to start that way, it feels so much more harsh than what Spike normally does. He normally will deliver those moments, but he wants to like set the table first and have you like ease into a moment of where you're going to get hit with that unexpected in this like really emotional moment later. It's what he's great at. But man, starting with those credits, I I was so not ready for that. But yeah, it is a really great intro to this film and just kind of again, it is the perfect way to just say strap in because there's some stuff that's kind of rough in this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then once the credits are over, we meet Strike and we meet his crew out there on the bench, and they're having a debate over rap music, and I thought it was a clever way to kind of give us the mind states, give us the of where our guys were, where these characters were
Yep,
mentally, and the ways Spike did it in this case was by talking about the different kinds of rap and how they felt about it. And the consensus, even though there was some on the opposite side, the consensus was that it was all about, being hard, being a gangster and doing all those kinds of things. And I thought that set the stage really well for those characters. So we know where they stand right from the jump, right?
yep,
They they're admittedly other than Strike, they're admittedly one-dimensional characters, but they're there for that purpose.
yep.
And, then after that, um well, let's go back to Strike for a minute. What was your first impression of Strike?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. It was nice to see Mekhi Pfeiffer in a larger role. But,
Mhm,
this is probably spoiling some of my thoughts on this, but I kinda feel like he just shouldn't be in a lead role. I feel like he's just sort of a wet blanket, in this movie overall. I think he does some really interesting things with the ulcer aspect, that he's got going on through this movie, but I think he's best served as a more interesting side character in small doses because this movie should have been Mekhi Pfeiffer's, but it's not. It ends up being somebody else's movie that we're going to talk about. But he's decent enough. He just doesn't have like the juice in the moment. He feels like a little skittish, I guess. Which in this movie it kind of makes sense because he wants out. He doesn't really want to be deep into this, and
right.
the skittishness makes sense, but it comes across as forced skittish. You can tell that he's like hamstringing himself in his performance a little bit. I think.
Yeah, it's been some years since I've seen this, and going back to it, I actually agree with you. It's like 'cause just, you know, I over those years since I've seen Clockers, I've seen Mekhi Phifer in a lot of movies.
Right.
And it's one of those things where you go, "Oh, man, I wonder why Mekhi Phifer wasn't bigger, why he didn't have a bigger career." And then
Yep.
I go back to this, and it's like, "Oh, okay. This is it's kind of everything's kind of forced.
Yeah.
Everything feels a little bit forced." And like I said, he's not terrible, he's not bad,
Yeah,
um, but he's carried along by the other people in the scene with him a lot.
absolutely.
So yeah, and that's where I was. You mentioned the ulcers though. That was the chocolate moo played a huge role in this movie. For anybody uh, who has not seen Clockers, chocolate moo is basically like YooHoo.
Yep.
Um, it's more or less, but it's used the way Spike uses it here. It's a metaphor for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Um, and so the chocolate was giving him ulcers. He's spitting up blood all the time and coughing all the time. And like I said, this plays a major role throughout the movie, even after his stomach problems have kind of gone away because of he finally sees a doctor
Yeah.
towards the end of the movie. Um, yeah, but I know you couldn't have been expecting that, but what did you think of that?
I mean, I think the ulcer aspect cinematically works, but I gotta be honest, for Spike, you could just tell that I don't know, it's a little heavy-handed for him. I
Hmm.
think, going from something like Do the Right Thing or Malcolm X, the ulcers was just very on the nose. It's the most obvious metaphor of this person is scared because they're in a situation that they don't wanna be in, so let's make them vomit blood every 20 seconds, and I don't know, I feel like we could have shown that in a very different way. That being said, it works well. Like, you can tell that he's actually, hobbled by it. It's something that is truly affecting him. But yeah, it I don't know. I like my metaphors less candy coated, I guess.
You know what I'm on with you there. Is like it could have been a little less on the nose, but it works. The only thing, my bigger problem with that is the first line that he mentions that he says is, "I don't have the stomach for this." You just gave away the whole
Yep.
metaphor right there,
Yep.
and so that was kind of my thing. And now you mentioned Spike and Heavy Handed. Interestingly enough for me, I found, that aside, I found that he was a little less heavy-handed than normal.
Yeah.
And now, did you see it that way or no?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple things that are on the nose, like the ulcer thing, and then there's the early scene with him holding the newspaper, and it literally like highlights the word rat on it, and it's like, okay, come on. But other than that, everything, like, it plays out more like a mystery, which I really liked that aspect of this, because you're sort of, I don't know, like hanging on every word for a clue from each of these characters, because in all reality, the way that the politics and these situations of these pushers, of these clockers, all of these people could literally be like a suspect in one of these
Right.
killings, and he kind of handles it pretty masterfully. I mean, even somebody, you mentioned Sticky Fingers, and this is so funny to me because I've seen him in a few things over the years. I didn't know he started this early. I thought he got started acting way later. I just never looked it up. He was one of my favorite parts in my favorite show of all time, which I love, the show The Shield. I grew up watching that every single week. It was one of my favorite shows of all time, and he played Kern Little, this like egotistical rapper that is kind of a strong badass behind the scenes, and he gets into trouble, of course. But he's in this movie. He's kind of like the exact same character that he played in The Shield, really. But you could easily see him as a suspect because he's sort of frenetic. He's got like this bop into him where he's going like off the walls every single moment, and he could have got skittish and done something. You could have easily had believed that it was the brother. You could have easily believed that somebody else in one of the rival streets could have got him. One of the cops could have got him. There's so many people
Right.
that could have been seen as a suspect in this, which makes it interesting. And yeah, I mean, Spike has has this uncanny ability to write deep characters when you don't even spend a lot of time with them first, which so many people cannot do. And man, I know that we're going to get into more about this movie, but yeah, there's so much to talk about in how he shoots this movie specifically to show those characters.
Yeah, well, we can talk about that part of it right now. Go for it, because he does some things. So I'll let you go ahead with that.
Man, this is. I'm going to get a little closer because this is like I've watched most of Spike's films at this point, or sorry, Spike's joints. Only one of them is a film, I guess, when you look at his filmography. Um, there's so many things that he does in this movie that I was not ready for. For those that don't know, first of all, we probably should say the one of the writers on this is Price, who also wrote a lot of The Wire, and there are scenes that are straight ripped out of this movie that were placed into The Wire that you could just tell. No, they thought it was great in Clockers, and now they're going to put it in this. And honestly, some of the scenes have been in a lot of other movies. There was a lot of inspiration in this film for other people.
Yeah,
Spike in this movie uh, one thing that hit hard is movement. He is somebody that knows how to make somebody, specifically Rodney Delroy Lindo in this Delroy Lindo, just be the most intimidating person because you see him stepping into a scene and he hard zooms onto this face and he holds it for like the next 3 minutes. But then when you're looking at like the intimidation of the cops are constantly swarming this neighborhood, and the way that he shoots from one side to the other side of this block that people are constantly running across. It's this frenetic sweep of these long dolly shots that were, I don't know, it's so uncommon in Spike's movies that it stuck out like a sore thumb. And God, there's again, I feel like I'm gushing, but there's so much in this movie. There's some scenes that are beautifully shot that are clear as day, and then there's other shots in this that are ugly as hell. The like super dark rooms and the super bright areas are contrasted beyond belief, and it's hard to see anything. And it's not like the Kino transfer is bad. It's clearly how they shot this movie, and they
yeah,
made some choices that I don't know. It feels dirty in a way that is not just like unsettling because it's I don't know, it's real in a way, but also it doesn't feel quite right because yeah, if I'm standing in this room, I should be able to see everything clearly, but it's so bright that you can't see a damn thing in that scene. Yeah, he shoots this thing magnificently, but makes some choices that are kind of weird for me.
yeah. This was I would say this is probably the first of his movies where he really started experimenting with the camera.
Mm,
Um, 'Cause his movies before this, none of them were poorly shot
right,
per se, but they're pretty straightforward, pretty static. And then starting here with Clockers, and he did it again with Crooklyn and Girl Six, he starts making some of these choices
yep,
and to really make the audience pay attention to what he's doing. And in here, like you said, he makes some choices. Some of these scenes are just purposely gritty and dark and muddy, to for lack of a better word.
yep,
And some of them are pristine. And he's making these choices as the movie's going along, and on a character per character basis sometimes. And where he places the camera, how close is it, how far is it, what side of the characters is the character is the camera on. So he's doing a lot of that in this movie. And yeah, I thought he did an amazing job. One of those characters that he tended to shoot that way was Errol. Anytime Errol showed up, oh man, the whole movie, everything went dark
yep,
whenever Errol showed up. And I thought that was just an amazing choice, um, to go with the performance of the actor whose name I'm drawing a total blank on right now. Um, but yeah, he did definitely, along with his cinematographer. I mean, of course, but they made some very interesting choices, some that you might not, uh, you wouldn't expect. And if you're not into the technical side of filmmaking, I could see somebody watching it and be like, okay, that doesn't make sense to me
Yeah.
at all.
What's the big deal?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But definitely Spike being, in his bag, as the kids would say. He's there. He's doing those things, doing those sorts of things. Um, since we brought up Errol, since I brought up Errol, what did you think of Mr. Errol?
He is, an interesting character that they, eventually kinda just, I feel like gloss over a little bit, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but he goes away for a while. You've got a couple really interesting scenes with him, but he's honestly, um, I don't know, I hate to do this, but I just wanna, like, bypass some of these side characters and say, "Can we just talk about Delroy Lindo?" Yeah, Errol is great in this, but it's hard when you have somebody that is clearly, you talk about Spike being in his bag. Delroy Lindo, is commanding this movie, and
Yes.
so it it's kind of the perfect setup because he's commanding this block too, and when you've got somebody intimidating a scene like this, and what one thing, on the technical side, which I probably should have brought up just a moment ago, is they shoot again very horizontally when they are like, look at Delroy Lindo just being an upstanding citizen, like when he's sweeping in his restaurant a couple other times, but when he's intimidating and he's like, I'm on the block, they change everything, and he's on the shifted Dutch angle where they shoot from below and make him look like the most intimidating badass you've ever seen. It is crazy, but yeah, that wasn't about Errol in any way.
That's
Errol is great.
well, the reason I brought up Errol because I think he functions in this movie, not necessarily to be a character that we really get to know,
Yeah,
but more like the boogeyman.
yeah, yeah.
Earl is
Eh,
gonna if you do this, Earl is gonna get you. If you don't do this, Earl is gonna get you. That kind of thing. And I thought that kind of hung over the movie, a lot of the movie for me. That I enjoyed it. We're gonna get back to Delroy Lindo in a second. I do want to just we got a couple of comments here. First, we got another Bond comment. Uh, yes, Amazon confirmed Denis is the next Bond director. Not a bad choice. Timothy Chalamet. Oh my God, just joking. He says, "Thank you, please." I I can't with Timothy Chalamet. I just can't. Not I don't see the hype, but that's just me. Uh, that moves running through him. Yes, we're talking about strike. Definitely, absolutely. Adam says I've not seen Clocker, so can't chime in other than talking bollocks. No problem. Do the right thing is still great. Yes, yes, it is. I can't think I've ever been disappointed with Delroy Lindo. It seems like he's good in everything. He is good in everything. Everything that I've seen him in, he's
oh
been
yeah,
amazing. KB, anytime I watch Clockers, I wonder how much he let his AD run certain scenes. Also, his DP was a music video guy.
it
So
shows.
there, yeah, it shows a lot of that shows. But yeah, you talking about Delroy Lindo. Um, yeah, he definitely commands the screen. He takes over every scene that he is in.
Yep,
Um, Absolutely does. And right from the beginning, w- we know he's a snake in the grass right from the beginning, especially as soon as he starts talking to Strike about the dream that he had.
yep,
If he tells him that, I had this dream and God pointed you out, Strike. You're like my son. You're gonna do all these great things. Right from there, I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad.
yep.
Not bad as in bad movie kind of way, but like I can feel the con coming coming off of him. And you already mentioned about how great Delroy is. How about Rodney the character?
Rodney is, uh I mean, yeah, he's a snake at heart. He's kind of the stereotypical, like, running a block that is super insulated. So he's got, five dominoes that have to fall before he gets caught. And inevitably, in a story like this, we know that he's gonna go down eventually. And We wonder how it's going to happen, but in the meantime, there's always that tension because you know that these other dominoes have to fall before they get to him. That means the other dominoes have to fall. We know something's going to happen to these guys that are, his little foot soldiers, and man, fall they do. There's always the infighting. There's always these, raids that happen on the block out of nowhere and are humiliating to these people that are on the street just trying to make some money. There's these situations where not only does Strike have the like devil on his shoulder with Delroy, you've got Keith David coming in wanting to be his daddy too, basically, and it's such this interesting dynamic, and inevitably you got to point out that it is a black man in a rough neighborhood and two black quote father figures stepping in, one that's really negative influence but he's not necessarily seeing that in that moment, and one that is a more probably more positive influence, but in the meantime he's already seen as the enemy. And so you've already got this inherent just butting of heads every single day of his life. No matter what, it's always tension, it's always negative, and it's always like you're fighting up from the bottom. And so Rodney's character is there to bring some more of that tension, and because of that, yeah, this movie is tense pretty much from wall to wall the entire
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, and I thought, the manifestation of the two father figures was Strike's relationship with, the young kid,
Yep.
Tyrone, because in that relationship, you saw both positive and negative
Oh, yeah.
influences on this kid, and I thought the movie did that really really well. You brought up Andre, and I had a two-part question about Andre. It's Keith David, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, because we talked about voices with Michael Wincott and Morgan Freeman. Keith David is another one with an amazing voice, and he's also good in everything I've seen him in.
Yep.
Um, my two-part question about Andre is A, is he a good guy? B, is he a good cop?
Oh man. I mean, at heart, these are impossible questions to answer. Because in all reality, I mean, I've never been a true fan of law enforcement, so I'm already looking down on them whenever they're on screen. But then on the other side, like, eh, you can tell that he's holding back in situations when the other cops are not. You can tell that he's somebody that cares a little more about these people, probably because he's come from those situations and he knows what it's like. But
Still
it's
lives there.
also, yeah, exactly. He's somebody that is affected by these choices that are being made every single day. It literally affects his daily life. So yeah, I don't think these are answerable questions really. It is very important from a cultural perspective to see that these people can make choices and seemingly have a positive life, but also still be stuck in that situation, which I mean, we're still facing that problem today. There's so many people that don't understand that escaping poverty isn't just about making a good choice and
Right.
being stuck in generational poverty in a situation where you feel like you're forced to sell crack in your same neighborhood that you were raised in, and your father was killed doing stuff like this. Like it's hard for a lot of people to even understand that. It's I don't know. Spike is a master of that sort of thing, though, and I think he pulls it off here really beautifully.
He does, and I know you said they're impossible questions, but I've got the same 2 questions about another character, and the character is played by another actor who you can say the movie belongs to. There's Delroy Lindo and Harvey
Harvey
Keitel.
Keitel.
Harvey Keitel plays Rocco Klein, and I think it's as much his movie as it is Delroy Lindo's, and same 2 questions. If you can if it's possible to answer for that character. Is he a good guy and is he a good cop?
Oh man. I at I don't know why this one is so much easier to answer. I At heart, he is not a good guy, but he's also a good cop because he is likely going to solve whatever is placed in front of him, but how is he going to solve that? Which is what makes him not a good guy. It's Harvey Keitel, and granted, he's played the same character many times.
Yeah,
There's a lot of Bad Lieutenant in this movie. There's a lot of Tarantino that's in this movie through his roles there. But yeah, he's willing to make choices that are going to essentially sacrifice those around him to just have him solve a case, which yeah, sure. On paper, good cop. You have we'll say 100% solve rate. You're still a piece of shit. You are still ruining these people's lives. You are still killing people through the choices that you're putting them through.
yeah, yeah. I would agree wholeheartedly with that. You brought up Tarantino, and gives me an interesting sidebar because with Keitel's character and really all of the white cops, there's a couple of black cops in the movie, Andre being one, and then we see one guy in the office like once or twice. Um, but we know that Spike Lee and Tarantino, they've been at odds, and a lot of it is over the language that has put into
Yeah.
his characters' mouths, and a lot of times it's the N word and other racial epithets. And in Clockers, we get the white characters saying those kinds of things here. For me, the difference being that when Spike does it, you know that you know that there's commentary behind it. You know that there's a point to it.
Right.
Whereas with Tarantino, it feels like, oh, look what I can get away with because I'm writing a movie. So that's kind of the difference for anybody who's familiar
Yep.
with their beef, so to speak. Even though Tarantino has showed up in a Spike Lee movie, oddly
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one scene in particular that really kind of exemplifies that in this, and that's Turturro. This is so funny. He looks over at the one black cop that is in this scene and he says, "No offense, Nubian." And then he knows that he's being racist. He calls himself out on it and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyways." And it makes no sense. This cop is just a piece of crap.
Yeah, yeah. And the um the slur of choice among them is really yos,
Yeah.
as in, hey, yo, people using that. So they
Yep.
call all black kids yos. And finally, that one cop has enough. He's like, I've had enough of this yo shit from you guys. So that was pretty that was pretty strong. Um, so we get some. Oh, one other technical thing. The video game Gangster. We get some foreshadowing out of there. Did you catch that?
A little bit, yeah. There's actually quite a few scenes in this that, like, if you break it down, are kind of telling you most of the story before. Like
Mhm.
we talked about the stomach thing. Spike really forecast this movie more than his other movies, I think.
Mhm, mhm. He does in a way where if it's a first time watch, you might not catch it. Um,
Mhm.
but on a rewatch, you'll definitely pick up
Yep.
on a lot more of those. We going back to Keitel's character, and you talked about the choices that he's making that is putting people in direct danger. Yeah, he could have definitely solved the case in an entirely different manner with
Yeah.
regards to his handling of his relationship with Strike. And yeah, how were you feeling when he was dealing with Strike throughout the film?
I mean, I was pissed so much about this because he's doing everything from the beginning to make him look like a rat, even though at first, like, there was no way he wanted to be somebody that was going to be saying anything about any of his people around him. And I mean, constantly like walking up into a group of people and grabbing one and taking him away to go talk to him, yeah, you're making everything about this look suspicious. And I mean, we've seen it in countless films throughout the years following this that have done basically the same exact storyline with the character. It, I mean, it's like the most bastardized way to get what you need without any
Yeah,
semblance of humanity. He does not care about Strike whatsoever. He's just there to serve the purpose of, hey, solve my case for me. I'm going to break you down so you can solve my case. And he's just a bad person.
yeah. Yeah, because I was feeling the same way. I was like, you are literally just killing him. You literally right now, you might as well have pulled the trigger yourself because you're putting him in the worst possible
Yep.
situations. Um, the one good, I will say, the one unequivocally good character in all this is Tyrone's mom. She was
Yeah.
like my favorite character in the movie. she she often just came out and just kind of cursed out Strike and all of his friends. Um, does she stand a chance with what she wants to get Tyrone to be, even before the decisions that he makes at the end of the movie? Does she even stand a chance of having him do the right thing, to use another Spike title?
I mean, in all reality, we all know the answer here is no. Unfortunately, these situations are it's essentially cultural quicksand. They've
Mhm,
been set up to be stuck in a way that many times the harder you fight, the more that you are pulled into some of these things. And if you are somebody that's being raised properly, which what is being raised properly really, if you're somebody that's being raised in that situation where you might have strict parents, and when you get a chance you're like, oh, I'm with the cool kids, I'll do something to just fit in for a moment. Not even like succumbing to peer pressure, but like getting a haircut can
mhm.
be something that can literally change the outlook of somebody's life, and be in a film like this, like literally a metaphor of, oh, it's the safest step that you could have taken, and now you're involved. You're in the center of it. You're already compromised in a way where you're stuck. The quicksand's going to get you for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of the choices Tyrone makes is like, yeah, I'm I now belong to the in crowd, basically, is
Right.
what it boils down to. And we so he tries to hang around Strike as much as he can. He goes up to the apartment with him. He's watching him cut the coke, and they're talking about the trains because that was the thing for Strike. He really loved trains, and we had an interesting discussion backstage about trains. And you have some ties to trains.
Yeah, my family for multiple generations were locomotive engineers. I was a conductor for a handful of years. I got hired when I was this is crazy, but 19 years old. I got hired to be a conductor with Union Pacific Railroad. It was 2006, and I went through all the training and all that stuff. And then 2007 hit, and we got hit with the big recession. And for the next 3 years, I spent most of my life being laid off work and being brought back to work for like a literally like a weekend. I would have a job, and then I'd be let go by Monday again.
Wow.
It would take a few days, and then I would be suddenly on call, and I'd have to work for the next 2 or 3 days, and then I'd be laid off again. And in a 3 year period, I got laid off literally like 45 times, something like that. um,
Wow.
One of the most tumultuous times of my life. I lived in this terrible little, like, tiny house basically in an alley, and I was on call with the railroad and unemployed in the other half of the life during those years. So it was rough, but yeah, I've got quite a history with the railroad. My grandfather was a union rep with the railroad, so I was raised in a very pro union household, with people that brought me on trains when I was a very young child. So I've been around them most of my life. Yeah.
So now linking it back to this movie, um, did you ever look at trains the same way Strikes looks at trains?
uh, in a mocking way, kind of, because the big thing with Strike is they are, it's obviously fun to like build model trains, but the big thing for a lot of people that are into this sort of thing is it's this. It ju- it's like a majestic machine in a way that you can see like the inherent beauty and the way that these things operate. And God, on that note, Spike can shoot a model train like really well.
Yeah,
The one big
yeah.
scene, it is beautifully shot right there. But yeah, we used to, when I was working on the railroad, we used to laugh because you'll come around like a bend in the mountains, and there's a couple spots where, no matter what time of day, there's gonna be 5 or 8 people sat up there with cameras that just love trains. We always called them foamers because you would come around the curve and they'd be foaming at the mouth to see a train. And at heart, that's what Strike, like, if Strike had money and like not in a situation where he felt he had to sell crack to live, he'd probably be a foamer. He'd probably go out taking pictures and be super into like train photography, and nothing wrong with that. That's cool. You got a hobby.
And, as he says, every man needs a hobby. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Um, so the plot kind of hinges on Victor and anything. You got any words about Victor?
Oh, Victor. He is, I mean, I don't wanna say like a nobody, but he's purposefully not in this movie very much because he's sort of, in a way, kinda like the positive Errol, if that's right to say. Because what's weird is Spike shoots both of them in this very contrasted way compared to the rest of the characters. So, like, when Errol comes on screen, everything is dark and gross, and inherently inside, you're sort of turned off by it. When, Isaiah Washington's on screen, you're immediately, like, contrasted on the bright side. It's a little like, "Oh, he's here, like, this is kinda cool." It's a moment because he's, like, the innocent one. But man, it this whole situation just sucks. It makes me feel for people that are in a situation where they are forced to make decisions, or at least compelled to make decisions that deep down they don't want to make, and can ruin their lives literally in an afternoon over essentially nothing. He
Right.
turns in a great performance, but really he's not given that much to do in this movie. He doesn't have a lot of scenes. But he's a good part of it, and he's a very important part of the story, especially starting in that second act.
Yeah. He, you talked about the way he was shot. I found especially like the flashback scenes, especially of of him doing his job, various
Yep.
jobs. They were shot like dream sequences.
Yeah, it's ethereal almost.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely had that kind of quality to them.
Yep.
So it just played into our feelings of all the characters, and like you said, gave us some sort of depth without spending a ton of time with him. Um, and I really appreciated that. Um, let me quickly take a look. We got a couple of comments here. Uh, there's one. This is Prince. It says my favorite topic that you covered, Ryan, is definitely the Hong Kong classics from Shout Studios. My nickname has been validated in a big way. That being said, what's your favorite Asian action movie? Oh, I know that's a tough question.
It really is. I mean, God, there's so many. First of all, there's so many subgenres that you can go back to. On any given day, my answer is probably going to be one of two, and it's The Raid, the first one. I love the second one. I love that they went bigger, but there's something that I love about that claustrophobic feeling that you get from that first movie, that it's so just contained, and they made magic with basically no money to make that movie. That it's just incredible. But going a little more classic, Police Story is a masterpiece, and I no matter how many times I see Police Story, some of the some of the stunts that Jackie Chan can pull off are mind blowing in a way that I fear for my life watching these movies, and the dude is jumping like 3 stories. I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yes, man. Look, first off, I'm gonna agree 1000% with the raid. I love the raid too, but the raid, oh,
Yep,
that's a whole nother level. I mean, the raid 2 has some magnificent fight scenes, but
incredible.
just the bigger scope takes a
Yep,
little bit away.
yep,
Um, with the raid is just amazing, and Jackie Chan, I mean, yeah, I totally get it, and it's not just Police Story, it's, any number of Jackie Chan
yeah,
movies you throw on and you just look at them and it's like, "Are you insane? Why are you doing this?" And for anybody out there who might be new to Jackie Chan, it's him. He's really doing it, no
yep.
camera tricks, no CGI, no wires. It's just him throwing his body around, treating himself like a rag doll and hoping he survives, and all for our enjoyment, and
And often getting genuinely very, very hurt, by the way.
yes, yes, genuinely very hurt, and even his co-stars, Michelle Yeoh tells a story about how she almost
Great
died
stuff. Yep.
in Police Story 3, so, yeah, Amazing stuff. There's no doubt about that. And Prince also he says, "And do me a favor, do him a favor, any genre, any movie, give me a random double feature." Ooh, you know what? Let me think on that. I'm gonna think on that while we're wrapping up here, and I will come up with something for you. Um, all right. Well, the end of the movie. We'll get to it. I'm gonna ask you simply. I'm changing my question mid thought. I'm sorry. It's not a happy ending.
No, not for anybody.
No, no. Um, is it a satisfying one? As in, do, do you think it could have gone any other way?
No, I mean, we get told from jump that he doesn't have the stomach for this, and the only other way was for him to be killed or to escape. And I mean, if he's telling you that he's got such anxiety that he doesn't have the stomach for this, he's literally vomiting blood in almost every single sentence that he's speaking in the final act of this. Yeah, you should probably run away and live a different life. It sucks, but I'm not gonna feel good watching him get shot. I'm not gonna be
Right.
happy with, Tyrone taking somebody else out. I'm not gonna be stuck in a situation where, he is put in a place to choose somebody that he cares about or whatever, or, see him go to prison or something. Like, there's no real great outcome. The only thing that he can do is run away, and it is sad, but yeah, I don't know. Everything is just real and raw about this.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great point. It's definitely real, definitely raw. And what I appreciated, one of the things I appreciated was we talked about how Spike can be heavy-handed, and I talked about how he's a little more subtle here, even though yes, he still has those on the nose metaphors. But there's none of this thing where somebody stops and breaks the fourth wall and starts talking to
Yeah.
the camera, or just gives a whole speech that doesn't feel natural. The there are some speeches in the movie, but they feel natural within the flow of the movie, if that
For the
makes
most part,
sense.
yeah. Yeah, Spike is obviously, I don't know, he's like I don't know if anybody said this. This is kind of weird, maybe, but he's like the Black Cameron Crowe in a lot of situations where his attachment to making good music choices is what makes quite a few of his scenes so emotionally resonant and successful. And Cameron Crowe does that. Like Almost Famous is filled with incredible needle drops, for
It
example.
is.
But
It is.
um, this movie, there's a couple times where for the first time in a Spike movie, I was like, I think you could have chosen a better song here. For the most part, stuff flowed pretty well, but yeah, there's one scene in particular where, oh gosh, it might have been Strike. I think it was Strike was walking outside of an apartment building, and he started up a song, and it was a little jarring to be playing right there. And I'm like, what tone are we trying to put across here? Spike's usually pretty great at that, but also he was still a pretty young filmmaker in '95, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up music because that was going to be my next and probably last stop. Um, it's a mixed bag. Like you said, there. It's not that they're bad songs; they just don't seem to fit sometimes. And then
Yeah.
there's other times where it's perfect.
Yep.
It's just a really perfect fit. Um, for my money, if you want to see Spike Lee at his best music wise, it would probably be He Got Game. Um, he's got, Public Enemy did this soundtrack, but they're not exclusively the music in the movie.
Right.
Uh, you get them, and you get classical music, and you get jazz in the movie, and you get all sorts of things. So for me, if you want to see him at his best musically, it would be He Got Game. KB says it's so realistic that I can never see the nihilism in this one.
Yeah.
I see plenty of nihilism.
There's a lot of nihilism in this.
Yeah, there's plenty of nihilism in this one. but I get it. I understand it, and it just feels a little bit more natural. Anything left that you wanted to talk about that we didn't bring up?
I mean, one thing that he got a name drop earlier, but we really should talk about John Turturro for just a second because
Yes.
this is the weirdest decision about this entire movie to me. Why is he in this movie? Uh, his character does nothing meaningful. He does like there's no impact on the story. He's just sort of another cop that's with Harvey Keitel. He doesn't even have like memorable lines. The only scene that is memorable is him being racist in front of a cop for 12 seconds. But other than that, like I get nothing from him. He's not putting on this great performance. He's not putting on a intimidating performance where like Strike's character would ever go, "Oh man, that guy's gonna get me." Turturro like should not have been in this movie. Either that or have the character do something meaningful. He literally doesn't even serve the story in any way.
AB agrees. He says JT is wasted. I'm gonna give. I generally agree, but I will say that the reason I think he's here is to take some of the edge off of Keitel's character. So, as in, yeah, Keitel's a bad guy and he's making all these bad choices, but he's not that. He's
Right,
not Turturro's, who not only we know he's racist, and we even hear Keitel's character being pretty racist throughout the movie, but with Keitel's character, we at least in some get the appearance of him caring, at least if not about the people, about finding the truth.
right.
Whereas Turturro cares nothing about that at all. He's like, "Hey, we got a guy. Let's move on to the next one." So, for me, that is why he's here, not necessarily to be a meaningful part of the story.
I get that
That's
in a way. Yeah,
yeah, that's my only take on it. But overall, yeah, he's you could take him out the movie and not really change anything. That's
literally nothing.
yeah, that is
We
a totally fair point.
we probably should point out too, for those that have never seen Clockers, that one Marty Scorsese was in line to direct this, which would have changed the film entirely. De Niro was supposed to play a big part of that, and he let this go direct Casino, and he completely trusted Spike. He wanted Spike to do the directing, and then Marty's credited as executive producer, and then never went to the set at all. Supposedly, just let Spike do everything. So, um, yeah, looking back on this, there's a lot that you could, I don't know, envision Marty making some of the same choices, but also not really, because everything Marty has done historically is not anything really like this story. It would have been
Right.
a completely different situation, and I think that we're better off for sure with Spike directing this one.
I think so. Though I could see De Niro playing the Keitel role.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
that would be really interesting. But some of the nuance that Spikes brings to the black characters in the movie would be
Yep,
missing from Scorsese.
absolutely.
Um, yeah. Interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know is that Scorsese is one of the directors that Spike Lee really looked up to all his life. And then as he became a director and met him, they actually became friends. And that's one of the reasons that Scorsese trusted him to
Yep.
take on this project. So yeah, definitely needed to be mentioned. I appreciate that, and I'm going to turn it over to you now, just for your overall thoughts on Clockers.
Overall thoughts. I truly enjoyed this. It is not top tier Spike for me. I think he's just too good of a director. Kind of, honestly, kind of like Scorsese. He's one of those where even Spike's lesser films, a lot of people would dream of making a movie that good. Clockers is an important story to tell. I'm glad that it was told. It's also, I think, inspired a lot of cinema and TV since then, which is kind of crazy because I don't think we really talk about it as informative to a generation of like black cinema or crime cinema, which there's a lot rooted in how we handle crime in film and TV following this movie, all based on clockers, which is crazy because you can see it in so many of the scenes. I mean, there are shots in Atlanta that reek of clockers. Like I said, with The Wire, there's stuff just literally lifted straight out of clockers. I think that some of the side characters that feel fleshed out in here really make this movie shine in some really important ways. And then one scene that we didn't talk about whatsoever, but the scene with um, Strike sitting in the car, and we get Delroy Lindo really showing how Rodney is an intimidating badass, kind of beating the shit out of him, and
Yeah,
putting the gun in his mouth right there is such a, I don't know, it's like that heel turn moment where before that he was trying to come off as this father figure, and after that you're just like, damn, you're just kind of a monster. And
mm,
uh yeah, he stole this movie for me. Delroy Lindo is an amazing actor, and God, seeing this and Sinners for the first time in 1 year, I would lay my hand in that guy's, I would lay my life in that guy's hand to get a performance out of him in anything. He is truly a master of his craft.
yes, yes. Delroy Lindo is brilliant. There's no two ways about it. He's just an amazing actor. I'm glad you enjoyed it, so I'll chalk it up as a. I'll take it as a win, even though I'm sorry I didn't really enjoy Robin Hood that much. Um, but yeah, glad you got to see it.
Me too.
Um, and you talked about Clocker's influence. It's one of those movies where, um, yeah, it did a lot of things, even though it itself didn't become popular,
Right.
but it was popular with people who would go on to do things, and it influenced them.
Yep.
Um, so and, it actually did okay box office wise, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, it's, definitely more influential than it's given credit for. I will
Absolutely.
say that. All right. And we have done it, sir. We have made it through 2 movies.
This was fun. I'm so glad I
This
was
is
able to do this.
oh, absolutely, we gotta do it again.
Yeah. I mean, you had a great choice, and I feel like we could have done better than Robin Hood for you. It's
And,
one of my favorites, but I know that most people don't love it. So someday I'll come back with some better choices.
it's always a shot in the dark, so, I mean, you never know. It's always a shot in the dark, so,
True.
I I don't get upset with anybody's choice, I look at what's presented, I make a choice, and if it works, it works, if it doesn't, it doesn't, we on. And that goes both ways because 'cause I've had people not like my movie.
Yeah.
So, it just works out that way. I'm gonna turn the tables back over to you. I'm gonna give you the big screen. You can tell everybody where to find you, what you're up to, and all those good things.
Oh man, so much. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Blue Sky, on Twitter, everywhere under the name The Disconnected. I do a live stream every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern to go over all of the physical media announcements for the week. We also have a guest on to do a discussion on film afterwards. I get people that are podcasters, filmmakers, YouTubers, people that are working on things behind the scenes for these labels. And speaking of that, I also work with many of these labels. So check out releases from Deaf Crocodile, from TerraVision, from Vinegar Syndrome, from Mondo Macabro. I host a handful of podcasts, including the Deaf Crocodile podcast, a Mondo Macabro podcast. I'm everywhere. What else? I publish a magazine 10-ish times a year. You can check that out, called The Physical Media Advocate. I love getting that to people's hands and sharing all kinds of different point of views on film. KB is supposed to be writing something for one of those right now. Hopefully, I'm getting that in my email here soon from him. But the other big thing, I run a podcast network called Someone's Favorite Productions Podcast Network. Check us out on someone'sfavoriteproductions.com. There's, I think, 24 shows at the moment with people like KB, with other shows that are incredible. People that I've respected immensely for years. Shows like Unsung Horrors or Criterion Now or Almost Major or One Track Mind, or just some of my closest friends that are doing some really creative things, not just with film, but just telling stories in ways that I respect and want to lift up. So I started the network, and yeah, we'd love you to be a part of it. So give us a listen everywhere.
All right, and KB, he's hiding his face right now that you mentioned that. Uh, we do have a couple of comments really quick before we get out of here. Uh, well, KB, he said, "Great show, guys. I'm going to throw in clockers until Robin Hood shows up." Then he
Nice.
had a question for you. Uh, well, the question for you, I take that back. Prince had the question, and I'm going to come back to KB's comment. He says, "Is Clockers better than the Five Bloods?"
No, The Five Bloods is a masterpiece that not enough people talk about.
Fair enough. I will agree with that. And KB says the Five Bloods is better just for Delroy's performance. He was phenomenal in the Five Bloods. He is fantastic here, but
Yeah,
he is phenomenal in the Five Bloods.
yeah.
And Prince, I didn't forget. He says, "Oh, bother, double feature, like you said before." And here's my double feature. Clockers is one. Go out and watch Clockers. And then I'm gonna say, to be kind of along those same lines, we have this movie. I'm gonna go big screen here really quick. Cutthroat City, directed by the RZA. I don't know if you can tell that right there. And check both of those out.
I don't think I've
So
seen that one either.
yeah, it's a low budget one, and I'm gonna read, and pardon me for taking off my glasses because I can't see anything up close. From director RZA comes the explosive Cutthroat City, the story of four boyhood friends from New Orleans, Lower Ninth Ward, who returned after Hurricane Katrina to decimated homes, no jobs, and no help from FEMA. And out of options, they reluctantly turn to a local gangster who offers them one shot at turning their situations around. And that's all I'm going to read from that. So there you go. Clockers and Cutthroat City, Prince.
Nice.
And report back. Tell me how you like it. And Prince says Cutthroat City. So maybe he's seen it. I'm not sure. Steve says good night. And he tells, I believe that was Steve he was talking to, keep drinking coffee. And we are also out of here. Thank you for sticking around, everybody. If you're watching this on the replay, thank you for joining us. And